Items for discussion. Let's go, we want to start fiscal year 2019 budget development.
Yeah, we'll start with that. So there's 3 items. The last 2 are just really quick updates, and we'll do those before we break. But we wanted to get the finance committee together to kind of kick off the budget process. It's pretty early in the process, so we don't have a lot of specific information to share, but Wes will go over and kind of talk about the schedule, the timeline, share a little bit of information, some comparison we've done to previous years, and then we want to solicit from you two, is there anything in particular you'd like us to provide to you as the process unwinds? I believe I told all the directors now, I'm trying to get the budget done by the end of May, because we won't have a full slate of directors for the entire month of June. So I'd like everybody to be there. So I don't know if we could make the second regularly scheduled meeting in May, which would be the 16th, I want to say. So we're probably going to be putting
16th.
together a special meeting on the 30th, which would be the third, or the 5th Wednesday of the month. And by that time, I think we'll be able to put the budget together. So unless you guys have any questions on that kind of big picture, I'll turn it over to Wes and he'll walk us through.
Okay, well.
By the way, I'm seeing a theme here.
Yes.
Hairy faces. I'm glad to see everybody's getting with.
See?
Almost everybody's
You're a
getting with.
trendsetter.
Well, you and Mike accept that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I should steal the mouse, or you
Yeah,
wanna?
go ahead.
We're gonna do 2 at once. I have to put this away for change.
I can't believe it's already time to do budget again.
Yeah.
Nice.
You did
We
good.
just did it.
Neither can we.
Yeah. Time flies.
Okay.
What's the name of the fellow up there?
That's
Russell.
Russ Kubota.
How long has he been with Vallecitos?
A long time.
20, 15, 20 years? His
Really?
dad is a big shot in the engineering world. His name is Jack Kubota.
Oh, I bet Jack
Yeah, that's Russell's
at one of the conferences or.
Yeah.
He's our poster child.
He's like a living legend in the
Yeah.
water.
Seems like a nice guy.
Yeah?
Super nice guy.
Great guy.
He's very photogenic. He shows up in all of our websites, and
Yeah.
you should get a royalty for every time he shows up.
Yeah.
Okay, so first I just want to say welcome back.
Yeah.
We're
just
excited,
liked you.
excited to be planning for 2019. I actually had to write that in my hand on the 9 there. You can see it's a little bit sloppier than the rest of that. But so we're kicking off the 2019 budget season. So as Glenn mentioned, we're just going to go over an overall budget calendar, budget process today, and talk about some tentative committee meeting dates. So February, the process for us in February is basically we load the audited actual numbers into the budget and we start to work on the 2018 budget projections. And at the same time, we send out the worksheets for the departments to start preparing their individual budget department requests. They're due to us by February 28th, so we actually haven't received those yet, so we haven't started working on that yet. So for this meeting, we're just going to go over, as we mentioned, the budget calendar. And we'll talk a little bit about the budget versus actual for the last 5 years, just to kind of give you a recap on how things have been going.
And how much slush there has been or hasn't been.
Right?
We don't use that
Hasn't
word.
been.
Yeah.
How much
You use that term?
We don't use that word.
Fluff? What
It
do you
has
call it?
negative connotations.
Oh,
Tranche.
Tranche.
okay.
It's a very small variance is what it's referred to as. So in March our process is pretty much we get the operating budgets from the departments, start putting those into the budget, finish up the current year fiscal projections, which just projects to the end of 2016 or 2018, because we'll be working on around March. We'll finish up the debt service forecast and the reserve, so March is actually a very busy month for us. And then March 12th, we have the tentative meeting scheduled, and we will be going over the operating budgets for the departments. It's that very detailed listing, and that'll be here to answer questions that you have on that as well as myself.
So let's pause there for a second. Does March 12th work for both of you?
March 12th, I'm getting these things removed March 12th at 4:45.
Okay.
So I could do earlier, I could do later.
But right now, I'm tentative that whole week because I might be traveling to Florida for work.
Okay.
I'll know probably more by the end of the week.
Okay. So we'll keep that as a tentative, but Director Martin, we may want to do it earlier to free you up so you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, at 4:45, it takes 2 or 3 hours. So I mean, it's.
Okay.
I'm done, and I'm not in a good mood after.
No, we want you in a good mood.
Pretty painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had it before. So that's the only day.
But if we do it, you could do it earlier in the day.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I can do it before then.
Okay.
Anytime that week or anytime the week before.
That's a Monday, right?
That's
That's
a Monday.
Monday.
Yeah. Yeah, we tried to target the Monday at 3 or 4 o'clock, but if those
Right.
don't work, we're flexible.
Yeah. Where did 3 o'clock come from? By the way, we haven't done 3 o'clock before. We've always done it
It's a
4.
surprise to me too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, probably, when we first set it up, we probably thought we'd have more information, but,
Oh,
so
okay.
we'll try to make them as late as possible unless we think it's gonna take a considerable length of time,
Yeah.
so.
But you prefer 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
I know,
Well,
Yeah,
I
breakfast,
definitely do,
yeah.
and, you know,
Yeah.
that's why probably Huntsker's not here, he's probably coming at 4.
Yeah.
So we don't wanna miss out on the public.
The crowd. Yes, anytime before that week or after that week, just that day is the only day. To
Okay.
reschedule that would take forever.
So we'll work on rescheduling that one then. See, that's why we're having this meeting right there. Okay, so that's the process in March, rescheduling the finance committee meeting. In April, everything should be in the budget. We should have a sort of first draft that'll be revised and refined by the finance manager. And then April 2nd, we're gonna go over, so the capital request is due on March 9th. So by April 2nd, we should have sort of a draft of the capital, and James and Ed will be here to talk about any questions you have about the capital budget request, assuming you're available on April 2nd.
I am. And on the 25th.
Okay, and then the next meeting will be on the 25th. By the 25th, we hope to have a draft proposed budget ready for you, which includes everything, operating capital reserves, the whole shebang. Mike's gonna have the revenues prepared and ready to go. Right, Mike?
Yeah.
And then we'll discuss any items or questions that you may have for us.
and just real quickly on that, I guess, 4th line down, it references the finance manager, just a reminder, we're in the process of going out for a finance manager, and our interviews are this Thursday, I wanna say, yeah, March 1st is our interview date, so we're hopeful that in the April timeframe, our finance manager, whoever that person may be, will be in place.
Did you get my application, by the way? I wanna make
Not
sure.
yet,
Oh.
yeah, it's open till filled,
Let's
so
go.
it's
Lost in
never
the
too
mail.
late.
We can't
Yeah.
afford you now.
Yeah.
Lost. That would be true.
So next slide is gonna be the process for May. In May, we'll have we'll make any reviews, corrections, revisions that you may have, and we'll work on the first draft of the proposed budget. And that will be presented to a full board workshop, hopefully the week of May 7th through the 11th.
The week of May 7th through the 11th is Aqua.
It is, okay, then we'll have to switch that. All right, yeah, Wes and I just went over this morning, so we didn't have a chance to look at the calendars.
Yeah, that's the week before that is okay, except for a board meeting on the 2nd. The week after that, we have a board meeting. We have COW on the 15th, VWD on the 16th, and CSDA quarterly on the 17th.
Sounds like the week before might be better.
Yeah.
Week before, looks like a workshop.
And we could probably do that, probably maybe towards the end of the week before, but,
Okay, and then as Glenn mentioned, we are hoping to have the budget brought to the board for your approval on May 30th.
Okay.
So we're pushing up a week from last year, but we think it's
And that
hopeful.
would be a board meeting?
yep.
Yes.
It'll be considered a special meeting, because it's not the 1st or the 3rd.
Oh, okay, and the 16th would be canceled. Is that what you're
Probably
saying?
not, maybe,
Oh, okay.
but it's not necessarily.
Okay, okay, good.
What I envision, this may be the only item on the agenda, give the board
Well,
plenty of
plenty
time.
of time.
They'll have all
Smart.
seen it at the workshop, and the reason for the full board workshop in that week, which will probably be the first week of May now, is so that you all have an opportunity to see it and maybe give us some feedback, so that when we come back on the 30th, it's very focused.
Okay.
So the next couple slides are gonna go over as I mentioned in February, we entered the audited actuals into the budget, and then we look at how we did budget to actual. So this is showing the 2017, because those are the most recent audited numbers that we have. So here you kind of get a picture of how our budget to actual is going over the last 5 years. I don't know, somebody recommended this schedule, I'm not sure who that might be.
Me, but it seems to be going the opposite way than what I thought it was.
Really? I think this paints a pretty picture, right? So it looks like, and I'll focus on 2017, so the most recent results were actually under budget, I believe, or sorry, we're over budget by $220,000 or 2%. I believe that was expected with the latest rate increases that didn't come into effect until this year, so, 220 is not a bad
We got that in the bathroom for sure.
Well,
Get that in the
now,
bathroom.
now, let me ask you a question about the bathroom. Was that, was
It's not
that,
agendized.
no, was that in his budget? Was that in his budget?
Yes.
That was in his budget at $800,000.
But it was a capital.
It was a
project, so it's
capital.
not in
This is
portion.
operating.
It's
It's not
operating.
in-
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not reflected.
But we've already
Oh.
used it to supplement $1.4 million worth of stuff, so.
So that's the water comparison. Now we'll look at the sewer portion. So sewer, most recent year, we were actually under budget by $721,000 or 11.03%. And it's in line with our last 5-year trend, sort of, except for in 14-15 where we had a very good budget year. This is something we're going to be focusing on this year to figure out why it's around 11% and just try to make that a more precise calculation.
Yeah, that'd be
So
nice.
that's the end of my presentation for the day. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Do you have a CIP?
No, CIP is not part of it's on the agenda here.
Can you go back to your calendar, please?
Isn't that budgeted though?
It is budget, yeah. So I didn't do a budget actual CIP.
Is that what you're asking, budget the actual and CIP?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
That'll vary widely.
yeah.
Because of things that
Projects
didn't
get
happen,
moved
things that did
forward,
happen.
backwards. You have a big payment in June and it's done in July and stuff like that, so it can cross fiscal years too.
It's usually less meaningful when you look at that than an
Yeah.
operations budget, which is more predictable.
Well, the operations budget really is the water.
Well, that does not include water purchases, so Wes, if you can go back to that
Oh,
water one.
that doesn't include
That
water.
was,
purchases.
I
I
see the
thought that was-
bottom left there excludes water costs. So this is
Oh.
everything else.
Yeah, so this is when you're looking at operating expenses like our department requests and so on and so forth. This is how we did as far as their requests versus the actual expenses that we had during the year.
Oh.
So we try to look at, the, I'd say, most controllable costs, and this is what this slide is showing us. Whereas water purchases is out of our hands.
Wes, do these, they don't include personnel?
They do.
Oh, it
Yeah.
is, it's
Yeah.
everything, okay.
Yeah, because these are department expenses overall, and they actually have labor in there as well.
On water purchases, which is not part of this, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Well, let me just question. We had a plume last year in the ocean that stopped us from getting water from the T-Scout plant. So we were getting cheaper water. Did it
Yes.
show up anywhere?
Yeah, it'll show in your, when you do your actual water purchases, you weren't required to take our D-cell purchases for that time, so if there's I forget what the name is, it's like a qualifying event that excuses you from taking your minimum purchase.
I think that might have only been 1 month though.
I think it was, yeah.
Because every other month, I think it's like 271.4 acre, whatever the number is, or 260, and we've taken it every month except one.
Yep.
And we normally to take her pay, but that month we didn't get charged
Yeah.
for the extra desal or the shortage on desal.
That was something I found out. I didn't find out through us. I found out through when we went to that DSAL conference. Someone was talking about, I have to bring that up, because I
Yeah.
didn't know we weren't taking it for a month. So we were getting cheap water from Olivenheim.
Mm-hmm.
If, just looking at the trend there, and I'm sure we talked about this last year when this came up, but what was the $1.2 million jump from 14-15 to 15-16?
Yeah. So we did talk about last year, and I actually broke that out because it's the actual from one year to the next. And then you can see it was actually budgeted. So we had planned on that increase based on what we were planning on using for outside services and power costs and so on and so forth. And a lot of it does have to do with outside services, power costs, and materials and supplies that we planned on using. So, and I actually broke it out. Some of it has to do with labor. We had a couple payouts. A couple people retired, and it cost us, I think it was around $250,000 to pay out those individuals. We also had the GASB 68 implementation in 2016, which resulted in about a $200,000 increase in PERS. So,
Wow.
$250,000 to pay off.
Like accrued vacation time, when somebody retires, leaves the district, they get paid for the vacation time they have on the books.
I think we did pretty good. Just, I mean, looking at the big picture numbers here from 15-16 to 16-17.
Yeah.
I know it's a little bit of an increase, but if you take into account just labor costs and everything else, I think we managed that increase pretty well.
Yeah, and what we could do to that end is the numbers that you see above the bar charts is the comparison of budget to actual. We can do an actual to actual comparison or a budget to budget comparison. We can look at it in whatever way you want to, whatever way is more meaningful for all of you to help you make decisions. And we didn't create a slide on this because it's preliminary information, but just for your knowledge, Ed's in the middle of preparing his O&M budget, and he thinks it's going to be about 1.5% higher than last year. So 1.5%, that's a pretty small number of an increase. So that's good. He's doing a really good job. And a lot of that's just because of chemical costs have gone up, power costs have gone up. We've controlled costs and reduced costs in other areas, but overall you're going to see about a 1.5% increase, subject to change because we're still refining those numbers. But as this progresses along with these finance committee meetings and then the workshop and then the board adoption, we'll get more and more of that information out and get very specific and very detailed. It wasn't our intention this year to go through an item by item. We're going to provide it to the committee so you can look through it to whatever detail you want. But I think we learned last year that to try to spend the time at the meeting to go item by item may not be the best use of your time, but you'll have access to the information. And I don't know exactly when that will be. Will that be in March?
That'll be
Or
the, I
April?
think it's the, let's see, it is right there, the March 12th meeting, where we'll review the operating budget request, and that'll be here for that, to go through the detail if necessary.
So that's when we'll have the detail,
Yes,
but we probably won't go through it at that meeting, obviously.
well, we'll give
But-
you the, sorry to interrupt.
But we can bring it back at the next meeting, is that what you're saying?
Well, at that meeting, we'll be presenting you the budget by department, so you'll have all the O&M costs by department. If you have questions and want to drill down, we'll have the detail as well to answer those questions at that meeting.
Well, we have the detail physically.
Yes.
Okay, so, but at that meeting, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna get this information, it's gonna be too much information.
So will they get it in advance is I think where Director Martin's going.
Oh, yeah.
If we can get it to them a few days in advance of the meeting so you can come prepared to the meeting.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Do that.
otherwise April 2nd meeting was like,
Yeah.
if we have questions, because I'm gonna guess we're gonna have a lot of questions, because we don't know the answer, not because there's no aha moment, it's just that we don't know the answer.
Right.
Like, in my case.
Yeah.
His case it's aha, but my case.
I've never heard him say aha.
I've said it.
I've heard it from you a lot.
That's trademarked by Hal.
Yeah.
Do you guys go into this process with like a goal in mind? I mean, obviously to be as efficient and cost effective as possible, but I mean, do you have like, does the management committee have like, hey, let's try to, not see an increase of greater than 3% or 5% or something like that?
You know, obviously we need to try to live within the revenue projections that our rates would have, so that's one trigger, and we try to keep things as flat as possible, but we don't go in there saying no more than 2% or no more than 5%. We don't typically do that because I don't want to go in there having people think it's okay to go up to 5% because they may have been able to do a better job. So what we actually do is look at it from the cost control perspective on the details. So if we go line item by line item, same topics or same items, comparing last year with this projected year, and you can see where are the increase, and then the manager has to explain, okay, why did you see a 20% increase in chemicals? Oh, it's because the cost of chemicals went up by 25% or whatever. So that's how we try to do it. And all through the year, we're always looking for opportunities, and chemicals is a great example because the crews do a really good job to refine the processes to reduce our chemical demand, but that doesn't always result in the chemical cost savings because the price per pound may go up more than the amount of pounds we saved.
And most of it's a necessity to provide safe and reliable services, so it's really just looked at it that way.
I'm just working out of curiosity, and you know two would know this, in previous years when managers have brought forward their budgets, have they ever been challenged?
Oh, yeah. So when we sit down and we go over the detail of the budget, a lot of what we do is if we have a meeting, Glenn, myself, Tom.
Well, I know this year we have Glenn.
So, oh yeah, we've always gone through and
I
gone through
like
each
that.
line item and said, do you need this, do you need this, what do you need this for, anything that can be questioned. And we actually go through all the detail and say, do you need this, and anything that's not necessary is is limited.
Yeah, that's the thing that you guys and the full board never see is the cuts that were made before it got to this level.
Right.
So even before Ed brings it to us, Ed's doing the same thing with his supervisors, and his supervisors are doing it with the line staff. They may say, hey, we need a complete new set of tools at a line worker, and the supervisor may kill it right there, or he may pass it up, and Ed may say, no, we got your tools 2 years ago. So it goes through probably 4 levels of cuts before it is actually gets seen.
Yeah, we were at a budget meeting, meeting this morning talking about how many different budget versions we usually use. We talked about for next year, we're probably gonna have 7 different budget versions. You know, the original one, the department's request, then when the managers make their decisions, then when it comes to the full management, then it goes back, then it comes to the committee, and then it goes back to the full board. So there's like 7 different budget versions. So the first budget, I'll just make up a number, might be 40 million that the departments put in, and it gets down to 38 million, which Ed and his crew does the job, and then it gets down to, all the way down to what you finally see is 35. So.
But and to your point earlier, if I recall correctly, the last time we went through a rate increase discussion, we did it for what, 2 years or 3 years?
It's 2 years.
2 years. So your revenue, short of the board approving another rate increase, which I don't think they'll have the appetite to do, it is what it is, right? It's already set in place for the most part. I mean, it might increase a little bit or decrease a little bit based on water use and stuff like that. But
Yeah. Well, and it may not be just a little amount. If we go into a drought again this year and the governor does something more drastic, we may see huge changes to revenues.
Right. Okay.
cool.
So is there anything for next meeting is March 12th, plus or minus, we'll have to adjust the date.
Yeah.
But for the next finance committee meeting, besides the kind of more detailed operating budget review, is there something the committee would like to see?
No, I like the process. I'm looking forward to getting the line by line items so I can, in the comfort of my own home, go through it and look at it. And if I have any questions after doing so, then certainly we'll raise those at a future meeting. But and I feel a little bit kind of at ease knowing that the revenues are already set, so for the most part, right?
Yeah.
So I can't imagine that maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but would you guys ever propose a budget that's over what you're anticipating for revenue?
Well, typically no. We would do everything we could to keep it, unless something catastrophic happened, then we may have to come back and say, hey, the world changed and we need to ask for another rate increase or something like that, or we need to start looking at levels of service. Like Wes said, it's all about delivering clean, safe water and wastewater services, and if we don't think we can do that within the budget, then we'd have to have a conversation.
But our reserves are still pretty healthy.
The reserves are healthy, and that's a conversation we're going to have ongoing with one thing we didn't talk about here, but you can kind of read into it with the budget versus actual. If you go to those bar charts, Wes, you look at any of these and look at stay on the wastewater one for a second. So anytime you go into it, the difference between the budget and the actual would be called a positive variance. At the end of the year, the question that the board members could ask is, okay, what's going to happen to that extra money that we budgeted? So that's the types of things we need to talk. What I always call the dead man switch, if you don't do anything, that difference goes into the reserves. That's just the default. If you end up with whatever that, say in the fiscal year 16-17, that 721,000 positive variance is going to get added to the reserves. But a future topic for a finance committee may be to develop a policy on what to do with that. Maybe you want to take part of that for PERS or for rate stabilization, or there's other things you can do, but we don't really have a policy on that. It just basically rolls over into the reserves.
So for the years prior to 16-17, it's just gone into reserves.
Yep.
But a part of that can be that it could have been budgeted for replacement projects in reserves. So it's
Right.
not necessarily that we didn't plan on having the 700 or the 658. If we had, because there's typically more sewer replacement projects than there are water, so that may have been budgeted for those purposes. It's not something I can really go into detail on right now, but it could have been planned.
So it was a planned variance.
Of course, like that.
But a planned
for
variance.
CIP.
And that's what you would do if you said, okay, we've got all these projects in replacement coming up. We want to make sure that we're planning for those. So you'd have to plan to have your operations put a little bit into reserves.
Yeah.
to cover those projects.
Typically, I would expect that exactly what Wes is talking about would already be in the budget.
Yes.
So you say you plan, when you develop your budget, you plan to put something into reserves or replacements.
Typically.
And if you came out even on top of that, you'd have the amount you budgeted, and you may have some additional funds that could just go into
But
the
that
general
would be the word
reserves.
you hate to use.
Yes.
That's in there,
Yeah.
actually.
Well, you know, that's just life. Nobody's ever going to get the budget right.
Right.
So if you go back to the water one and you get a year like we did last year, or the previous year, so in 15, 16, so we actually, the expenses were, well, I guess,
They were lower.
no, I guess I'd go 16, 17, or the expenses were higher. So that's why you have reserves. That's one of the reasons you have reserves, so you can absorb something like that.
Oh, reserves are necessary,
Yeah.
no doubt about it. But you
Yeah.
can be over-reserved.
You can, and that's why we typically show the targets, the high, the low, and we probably need to start talking more about a target.
I mean, like, I look at 13 and 14 and 14 and 15, and that just seems a little bit high for my liking.
The percentages?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of the variance.
Well, again, that doesn't include the amount that we set aside for CIP reserves, because when you set that aside, it's not part of an actual, correct, Wes? If we set aside 500,000, let's say, for a water CIP project, that's not gonna show in the actual, it'll show in the
so
budget.
that's part of the variance.
Yeah,
It's,
Okay.
so it's in the budget, but it doesn't show up in the actual.
right, because we don't expense it.
Okay, so that makes sense.
And that's why typically we do like a budget-to-budget kind of comparison to give you a different look at these kind of charts.
Yeah, I think the line by line, that's gonna be on the 12th, or the day close to that.
Right.
The line by, I think that's gonna be the majority of questions, I'm gonna guess, because we don't know the answers to those.
Yeah.
And if we don't ask you, we'll never know. The general public asks us, we'll go, duh. And we're not most of us aren't, duh. And I say that because, I don't know who else is gonna be. Does that to mean you're gonna have,
Somewhere around the 12th, and Ed will be there.
Ed and,
Yep. No, Ed will be at the first one, James will be at the,
capital.
April one.
Yeah.
So if you see this one, the April Finance Committee meeting in the middle there, district engineer
Okay.
and the O&M manager, so that'll be James and Ed at
Okay.
that one. Just Ed, Ed and us
Yeah.
at the March one.
And they both have several capital projects, that's why they're both gonna be at the capital meeting.
well, that makes sense. Yeah, it's good to have Ed there, because otherwise you're just gonna say, we'll have to check it in and get back to you.
Yeah, he knows all the detail, and I've always told Ed if he needs to bring supporting cast members, but he seems to have a pretty good handle on it, he never does.
Yeah,
So,
maybe.
invitation's always there.
So I guess we'll go back here and say, yay, we're back.
Yay.
So
Welcome back, where were we?
we're on Savings Avenue and Budget Street.
Yeah.
That's where we are now.
Oh, I was trying to figure out,
So,
who's that for? Well, welcome back. Where
Wes,
we
can you
go?
go back to that calendar? Let's try to maybe, do we want to spend a little bit more time trying to figure out that March 12th
Yeah,
reschedule then?
it can be earlier in the day if that works for Michael.
I won't know.
Right.
I won't know for at least
So we're just in a
At
holding
least another
pattern.
week.
When do you
Yeah.
think you'll know?
maybe by Friday.
Okay.
But also,
How about March 19th if we pushed it back a week?
We have Lake San Marcos, Vallecitos.
yeah,
We're meeting the board with Chris, I think.
Oh, is that the
Yeah.
Speakers Bureau one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What time of day of that is that?
I don't know.
So what about the Wednesday? Is Wednesday open at all? Can we do the 14th of March?
14th? That's fine for me, but we don't know about Mike's.
Yeah, Mike
week.
might
yeah.
be
So
gone
it could
that
be
whole
out that whole week.
Yeah.
Bless you.
What about like pushing it earlier to like February? Hold on, I can't do February
We
22nd.
only got 2 more days
Yeah.
left.
It's the shortest month of
We've
the
got
year.
work to do.
We need more days. Sorry, guys. What about next week? Is that too quick?
So if we were to do it, say, March 7th, we would have.
That's the board meeting.
It's a board day.
And the state of the city.
Yeah, so that would be-
Yeah. What about the 8th?
We might be able to do the 8th, but in that case, it'd be difficult to have it into the budget at that point. We could have the request listing, and since it's due on the 28th, it would just be a rough request listing, and we wouldn't have had
Yeah.
much time to revise.
Yeah,
and
we need some
refine.
time to process it. And this Wednesday is the due date for all the
Yeah.
budget requests.
Right.
So the first thing we do is go through it. Like I said, we go through it, you need this, and we kind of break that all down so you guys get more of a draft rather than the initial review. Even though it's Ed and his crew do a great job going through that. But we also get other departments, meters, IT, customer service, purchasing, they all submit budgets that we have to go through and look at as well.
How
So-
about the 20th?
Kawa.
And 21st is board meeting?
Yep.
22nd?
Available.
You're doing 22nd,
22nd, that's a Thursday.
Thursday.
I think that's good.
Yeah, I'm available 22nd.
Has to be in the afternoon, 9:45, we get the stitches removed.
Yeah, we'll do 4 o'clock. Like usual.
Okay.
3:22 at 4 p.m.
All right.
Okay, and then we talked about the other one in May. So we were talking about doing it the week before that.
Meet before Aqua.
Yeah. Is Aqua's the whole week, right?
7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, yeah.
For what, May what?
So it would be the week of
May 3rd is a Thursday.
April 30th through May 4th.
May 14th, no, May 3rd is a Thursday, if that works for anybody.
What day?
3rd
That's a Thursday.
is a Thursday, for the
Yeah,
Tuesday.
I think I'm good there.
Wes, does that give you enough time?
So let's see what we got. We're gonna get the draft proposed by the 25th. So really, we'd be going over changes. And
Yeah,
then
so that's the,
having it by
go
the-
back one more. So that April 25th is when we're gonna meet with the two of you, and that won't give us a lot of turnaround time, but as long as you
How about-
understand that.
Well, how about the 7th or the I'm good. May's a good month for me. Anything going on the 7th?
That whole week is Aqua,
Yeah.
Uh,
out of town.
Yeah.
A few of us will be.
7th through the 11th.
And the next week there's a board meeting.
yeah.
We got the 14th though,
That's a Monday, right?
Yeah.
that's a
I
Monday.
can do the I can
Wanna
do
do May
14th.
14th?
Mm,
Wait,
No, that's not a good day.
oh, that's the full board workshop, huh?
Oh yeah.
Hal, did you say you couldn't do?
I can't do the
You
14th.
can't do the
That's something we could try to
14th. Well, this,
shoot for the 3rd.
yikes.
I know.
This is gonna take all 5, and it's a board workshop, so we'll have to check other
Right.
schedules as well.
So maybe we could do the 17th. Did we talk about that day yet? If we're talking about Thursday.
CSDA.
16th is a
Oh.
board meeting date.
Right.
Unless you're not gonna do any of that board meeting, you're gonna do it on the 30th.
15th? So 14th or
15th, Cal.
15th?
15th is Kawa too.
Kawa. The 21st to the 25th is wide open.
I mean, we could do, yeah, the 21st to the 25th would be like giving it to the full board in the workshop, and then the following week just approving it.
Yeah.
Addressing any issues that they brought up with it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with
Probably
that.
not a good idea.
20,
Probably a good idea.
let's
25th.
put as much space in there as we can, so the 21st is a Monday.
21st?
Yeah.
May 21st for the board workshop.
I think it's gonna go pretty smooth, especially if there's not, because there's no rate increase tied to this year. So and last year there was, and that's part of the reason why there was such a
Yeah.
push for finding cost savings.
Plus there were a lot of other situations last year that we don't have this year.
And certainly, we'll be looking, as we prepare the budget, we'll look at proposed revenue based on the rate increases, just to assure all of us, and your board included, that the rate increases are adequate to fund the budget. But there will be no direct impact.
And the workshop, if you want, that can be done in the instructional room. It's not a board meeting.
Right.
So if that's a more comfortable room for people, the way we used to do the workshops,
Yeah,
it is a true workshop, it's not a board
back in the
meeting.
training room. Yeah,
Better AV.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, you guys gonna budget for some AV stuff this year?
It's, yeah, that project's moving forward for the board
Yeah.
chambers, yeah, that's moving forward.
Well, we sold one of those cameras apparently, so. we got
sold one?
somebody there.
All right, so, but this date, the May 30th, is, you guys, it sounds from both of you, we're good for that, right?
BWD board, it's good for you.
Yeah, of all the dates, that's the one I want to make sure we lock down
Yep.
as early as possible. And I did check with our attorneys to make sure that we could do a budget adoption at a special meeting.
Yep.
Cities have some funny rules about what you can and can't do at a special meeting, like ordinances and I think it's ordinances you have to do at a regular meeting, not at a special meeting. But I was assured by Jeff that we can do the budget adoption at a special meeting.
Now, when do we, oh. Well, Jeff won't be at that meeting in May.
Without you asking a question, I can give you an update on that. So on the agenda on March 7th is going to be the agreement for the new attorney services, and the new attorney will start on March 21st.
Have you already hammered out the agreement?
It's 99% done. I've actually sent it to Jeff. I'm having him review it for technical stuff. I'm fine with all the nuts and bolts that are in there, but I'm having him review it. So, and then it'll be posted this Thursday or Friday, whenever we post. Will it be Friday? We'll post the agenda, or Thursday?
Possibly Thursday,
Okay.
but
As late as Friday.
There's putting a lot on staff, but the other night you mentioned, it was brought up some workshops for March or April.
So we were going to do in April, we're going to do a strategic planning because we want to wait for the new attorney to get on board. We're going to do a PERS workshop. We're going to do a master plan workshop. And now we're going to do a budget workshop. We
In
could
April.
combine items if it would be, I don't know what's easier for you.
Yeah, where I get in, where it becomes challenging is when I have like cow in the morning, so I'm rolling in at 9:30,
Yeah,
and then
and you gotta leave
and then I
early.
gotta leave at 2 or 3 o'clock.
You gotta make up
Yeah.
for getting
It's
in
kinda-
late.
It's kind of gotta be
getting
one or
early.
the other, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's just tough. Then you lose 45 minutes each way on the road too,
Yeah.
driving to La Jolla on top of all that. So as long as it's one or the other, I'm okay.
Yeah, all you working guys got it tough. All right, so we're
Okay.
gonna be, I assume at the next meeting is when you're gonna be planning the March and April.
Yeah, I have a call in to our PERS representative because I was hoping to have a PERS rep be at our PERS workshop because I want you to hear directly from PERS. Her name is Nancy Campbell. She represents every agency in San Diego County, and she said her boss has told her to limit her travel budget. So it's not easy for her to come down here. She's in Sacramento, so her ability to come down here is limited. So I sent her
Don't
a
they have a
request.
PERS office? I mean, I think I was at that PERS office.
They
down in
do,
Mission Valley.
down in Mission Valley, but that's not where the actuaries are. The actuaries are out of the Sacramento office. That's kind of tournament central there, but they each have geographical areas, but they're not housed in their geographical area.
So is it an actuary who we deal with, or is it a sales rep?
It's
They give them
the
a
actuary.
word they hate.
It's the person that does the numbers, that prepares our annual report.
Right.
So, and she was actually at the County Water Authority meeting last Thursday, so I met with her after she presented at the County Water Authority when I had this conversation, and I put in a phone call and sent her an email and asked her to try to make space and find out when she could be down here. And she said, well, I may have to couple it and come down and visit 6 or 7 agencies to justify the trip. I said, well, that's fine. Just tell me when you can be there, and then hopefully we can get a workshop around that. But it's not as easy as us picking a date and having her say, I'll be
Right.
there. But I think that would be a good perspective for the board to hear is directly from PERS, and maybe bring in somebody like a financial advisor from the outside and staff, and you get multiple perspectives on the PERS issue. The PERS issue, the timing isn't critical, but I'd like to get it done as soon as possible, but there's no like magic deadline for it.
Okay, does that end item number 1? Number 2,
Yep.
investment advisory services update.
All right, Wes, you want to jump in? Or?
So yeah, we have 2 RFPs to go over. We sent out RFPs for the investment advisory services. We had several responses. We actually got like 6 or 7 responses to that RFP, and I spent my weekend going through them. Tom did as well. Tom did a very thorough review of the proposals, and we've narrowed it down to 3. We're not planning on doing interviews. We're actually going to I have a few follow-up questions. I'm going to call up one of the advisors in particular and see what they, just clear up some questions I have for them, and then we hope to have a proposal or recommendation for the board to be approved, I guess the next time, maybe the next board meeting on the 7th?
March 7th.
On the 7th.
Yeah.
And also we have the auditor RFP. As you know, the contract with the auditors was a 3-year contract, and now we went out for an RFP for that. The proposals are due on March 1st by 3 p.m. So I'll be going through some more proposals probably next weekend, and then we'll be having interviews for that those proposals. And then we just wanted to see if you had any suggestions for questions, comments, or other things you'd like for us to address with the auditors that we get proposals from.
Yeah, if you don't find someone that you like or competent or whatever, or price point, we have the option of sticking with the old one if you'll have us for 2 years. I mean, so that's an option you should always.
And they actually are more than willing to extend their contract.
Really?
I've discussed it with them.
Surprising, isn't it?
Why?
Yeah. We had to twist their arm a little bit.
So we do have that option. They may even be submitting a proposal to do an additional 3 years, so they're part of the proposal process. So if we decide to do interviews, they may be in on the interviews.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work. 'Cause we couldn't grant them another 3-year term, but we could give them 2 more years.
2-year extension.
Yeah, 2-year extension, but I think our policy is we're required 5 years to go to just change.
Typically, it's 3 years
With a
2
two,
one-year
yeah, with a
extension.
2-year possible extension.
Were you talking specifically for audit services or just professional services?
I think it's audit services.
Okay, because professional services just says after 5 years you have to go out and competitively evaluate.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't stay with
Yeah,
the same
but
firm.
I think that-
Auditing.
Yeah, and it may not be a policy, it might just be a best practice. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think
Change
best
your
practice
auditors.
is-
Yeah.
Well, besides auditors and the attorney, who else is there?
Financial advisors, auditors, investment services,
OPEB.
OPEB.
Actuaries.
How do you feel about us getting an investment advisor?
How do I feel about that?
Yeah,
About what?
You know, honestly,
getting an advisor.
Oh,
if I answer the question honestly, I'd say at first I had some reservations because I love doing investments. I actually have a master's degree in finance, so I was excited to kind of take
You do?
over. Yeah, so I was excited to kind of take over the practice. But you know, in looking at the analysis, if we're able to go out and actually make money, and we're paying for the service, but the money we're going to be earning will make up for more than what we're paying. So it's more. It's not even a free service. It's actually we're getting money from outsourcing something. So it makes sense overall.
and I think we have to take some things off of our plates, because I'm gonna try to go as long as I can without filling the AGM position. So some things are gonna flow down that may have been done by the AGM, that may fall on Wes's group and the finance manager.
Well, it makes sense, I just wondered how.
Yeah.
Because I just, yeah, okay. Anything else?
No?
On number 2? Number 3?
Well, that was,
Oh, that was on
he
number
hit 3 as well, so.
Yep,
he
so that was
hit
the
both.
audit number 3. So I think that's everything we have to cover for today, unless you have questions.
I guess before we wrap it up, so I'm trying to remember from years past. Were we in part of? I remember interviewing our auditors during the RFP process. Didn't we meet with them, or did we just meet with the one? Maybe we didn't interview with them. Maybe we just met with, like, had the pre-meetings with them before they started the process. Do you remember that?
I think we just had, we had a meet and greet.
Uh,
We had a meet and greet.
Yeah,
They
okay.
were- Staff did it, and we
okay,
just met with them,
that's fine.
and they
But-
put it
but,
up with us.
I think the first time we went through it, we had a little bit more hands-on. Like we got to see the proposals. I think we got to kind of wind it down to 3 or so.
Yeah, we've
I
had
don't know.
discussions with the attorneys, and they caution us that if you get too involved in the process, you have to recuse yourself from the decision-making. So if you want to like sit on a panel or ask questions, then you may not be able to participate in the final selection. So
Uh,
that's why Wes asked you, is there something you'd like us to ferret out or, you know, solicit information regarding, whether it be the audit services or the investment services?
I don't know, did we compare, you know this, did we compare without them, with staff, do we compare services? Or pricing, or,
I
it
could have
seems to
sworn
me
that
we compared something.
I think we saw the proposals. And I want to. I don't remember though.
I think we saw the proposals, we had nothing to do with decision making.
Yeah.
But you let us see the proposals, and then it was explained to us who was chosen.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what happened. We didn't get into it, we could ask questions, but we didn't actually vote,
Mhm.
because we can't vote.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I think that's something we could do after, you know, we've gone through the selection process, we could say, here are the proposals, this is why we chose this firm.
I think that's what it was. You did all the work, but this is why we got, this is how we
Right.
got
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
basically. I think that's exactly what it was.
We can show you the process we went through, because we do an extensive rating of each proposal based on fees, experience, services they provide to us, and then we can explain that process to you.
And then we did the meet and greet
Yeah.
with him after that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure because I think we read it. I know I sat at home reading something on it, so it had to
Yeah.
be, it was, all the stuff was sent to us. We didn't make a decision, but we understood why you guys made the decision you made. Does that make sense? Yeah, we don't want to step on Steph's toes.
Thank you.
Not at all, not at all. You're the boss.
When did you stop stepping on Steph's toes? Was that like 5 minutes ago?
Yeah.
I never do.
Have you seen their toes?
Yeah.
They're all swollen.
All right, any
That's
other
it?
questions, or?
No, I think we're good. Thanks, guys.
I would have to say, I'm really looking forward to it this year. I think it's gonna go a lot smoother and a lot better than it has years previously. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. But I think you guys are terrific, so I think it'll be,
Appreciate that.
it'll be, very much anticipated, look forward to. So, last year was a grind.
Yeah.
This year it won't be, I know. So, thank you very much. With that, we adjourn the meeting.
All right, great.